Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Summer Stinson, EOI's new Executive Director. EOI's mission is to build an economy that works for everyone by advancing public policies that promote educational opportunity, good jobs, healthy families and workplaces, and a dignified retirement for all. EOI's staff, board, and community of supporters are united around a mission to build an economy where everyone can thrive, not just survive. We aim to center racial equity in our internal practices and external policy work because we understand that racial and economic equity are linked. Together, we have made Washington a healthier and more equitable place. And I know that together we will recover from this economic and health crisis, and that we will tackle the root causes of economic inequality, and that we will challenge the status quo, and that we will create a future where everyone can thrive.
Our work is long-term. We fight for policies that move us towards systemic change, rather than only patching broken structures. We aim to look ahead to the healthy and sustainable communities we want, and chart a pathway of incremental steps that improve outcomes and build power, while leading us to transformative change.
EOI believes all families should be supported during life's most important moments, like welcoming a new child, caring for a loved one, or recovering from a serious illness or injury. We have persisted through 2 decades of advocacy to pass Washington's Paid Family and Medical Leave program. Paid family and medical leave passed the state legislature in 2017 after a massive coalition effort. The program started providing benefits in January of 2020, just before the pandemic hit. Now, almost all Washington workers have access to the leave they need to care for themselves or a loved one without having to sacrifice economic security. And already, more than 200,000 workers and their families have benefited. EOI's work doesn't stop when we pass a new policy. We're always seeking feedback and working with communities to improve outcomes. In 2021, we mobilized the coalition and successfully advocated for positive changes in the Paid Family and Medical Leave program. These changes included expanding the definition of family and created more flexibility in qualifying for people who lost work due to COVID. Now, everyone can take the leave they need to care for their loved one or for themselves.
I have firsthand experience, both for myself and others in my life. I have had the great fortune of being an end-of-life caretaker 3 times in my life. I drove to doctor's appointments, chemo treatments, organized medications, prepared meals, cleaned clothes and bedding, diaper changes, and making sure that each of these people had love and dignity in the process of their death. Every person deserves care from a loved one during difficult times. Caretakers should not have to worry about having a job when returning to work. In 2002, one of my closest friends was diagnosed with AIDS. At the time, I lived with 2 good friends that were like family to me. The 3 of us moved him into our home. We had 2 great years with him before he got really sick. He asked us if we would take him through his end of life. We did. He didn't want to go home and be the stepbrother dying of AIDS. We were his home. We were his family. I believe our government has an obligation to keep its citizens out of homelessness and poverty just for getting sick, a mental illness, a desire to have a child, or the process of a loved one dying. I wanted to share my deepest gratitude in your continued fight for paid family and medical leave.
Everyone should be able to care for their health without jeopardizing their financial security. That's why we're hard at work advancing policies that build toward universal health coverage. EOI has been working to make health insurance more affordable and accessible for over 2 decades. So when the COVID pandemic hit and hundreds of thousands of Washingtonians suddenly lost their health insurance along with their jobs, we were ready to jump into action. We worked hard with our community and legislative partners across the state to expand coverage, improve affordability, and address long-standing inequities. EOI was at the forefront of passing Cascade Care in 2019, which created new standard and public option plans on the health benefit exchange to help patients access affordable, high-quality coverage, along with a pathway to implementing state-based subsidies. This year, I'm proud to say we helped win an investment of $50 million to subsidize health insurance for thousands of Washingtonians who would otherwise be priced out of coverage.
What I see as EOI strengths is that they really do care about the most marginalized people in our community and are using their power and privilege to advance progress across Washington. Some of the great things that we have done at EOI is advance capital gains tax, make sure that there's Cascade Care, healthcare available for everyone, and also really investing in childcare. And so I am so grateful for my opportunity to serve with them, to also serve with them when they come to Olympia and talk to me in my official hat as a legislator, but just really grateful for all of you supporting them today.
My first encounter with EOI was in Olympia. Hearing testimonies of support for early learning field was encouraging to know that we had allies. Absent of the collective voice and the qualitative and quantitative data that EOI presented, many of our words may not have been heard. EOI speaks to the urgency of the dilemma that a system that was put in place inherently doesn't support the very ones that we need to uplift, our children. EOI has a shared value with childcare providers and that we must obtain true investment for all, the families, the children, the community, and care providers. EOI listens to the voices of early learning when we shared that more than half of the individual, primarily Black and Brown caregivers, did not have insurance. EOI prioritized this discussion with legislation through legislative actions of support. The clarity of our mission of working to promote economic security and educational opportunity is truly felt in our field.
Hi, I am Washington State Representative Noelle Frame, representing Seattle's 36th district. And this last year, I became chair of the House Finance Committee. I get to work with the Economic Opportunity Institute on, you guessed it, tax and fiscal policy. And they have been a great partner on a range of legislation, but one bill in particular, I'm particularly grateful for their partnership. And that is the Washington State Wealth Tax, which I proposed this last 2021 session. EOI are big tax nerds just like I am, so they helped me to make the bill better, connecting me with academics and partners from across the country, but also helping with organizing right here in Washington State. So we had support in our first hearing for the bill and that we are building momentum for the future. So EOI, thank you for all you do in our community, particularly on tax and fiscal policy, and I look forward to continuing to partner with you in the future.
The COVID-19 pandemic drove home the value of public programs like health departments and public schools. It also shone a light on the accelerating inequalities in our society as billionaires continue to grow and preserve their wealth while we face an acute housing, climate, and public health crisis. Despite being a progressive leader in many areas, Washington has the least fair tax system of any state. For all Washingtonians to thrive, we need the wealthy and large corporations to pay their fair share so that we can invest in public schools, hospitals, and services that benefit us all.
EOI's work reaches far beyond the borders of Washington State. We work with advocates and policy groups in states across the country to advance similar policies. We've helped several states pass paid family and medical leave programs following Washington's model, including Oregon, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Colorado. And we've been informing policymakers and advocates in Washington, D.C. about the lessons we've learned here on how to design policy for equitable outcomes across race, gender, and income. Our work here is instrumental in creating the momentum that's finally gaining ground at the federal level for paid family leave, big investments in childcare and early learning, and other policies critical to family economic security.
It takes all of us to make this progress possible. Each one of our actions ripple out to propel the larger tide of social change. Nothing happens by chance, and none of this work is easy, but our collective dedication to building the future we know is possible powers these real steps forward for Washingtonians and our country. We all have a role to play, so thank you for being here tonight and doing your part to make Washington State a place where everyone can thrive.